I first started with pigeons when I was very young. I was 6 years of age. Me and my little friends, we used to go out on the summer holidays. We used to go egg collecting, which was all we had to do. Where I lived in Salford, and the house I lived in then when I was very young, it was really council and low end, and no one had much to do. So during all the derelict buildings, we was forever going in and out of them, seeing if we could get the pigeons. Once we was doing this one day, I fell through the rafters in the apex and hurt myself. And when I went home, my dad said, look, you've got to stop doing this. I'm going to get you a pair of pigeons. And it was in 1982 that was the first 2 pigeons I ever had, which they were just in basically a small rabbit hutch on legs, and I'd just spend hours watching them, looking after them, letting them out. They had like a little let board they could let themselves in and out of. Nothing at all to the levels we're at now. When I got a bit older, to say the 11, 12 year olds, I lost interest a bit, but my dad carried it on. I'm a member of Kersal Vale Park Flying Club, which are both members of Altrincham District Fed and the Central Lancs Combine. And I'm also a member of Denton Flying Club, which is border and mile, a completely different organisation. In 2003, I was sat outside actually here, and it was a lovely summer's day. It must have been a Saturday, and a team of pigeons went over. Low, must have been an headwind because they were really low. And that was it. I just thought, I'm getting some pigeons. Next day I went out and bought a loft. When I first started with pigeons in 2003, I spent everything I had on pigeons. Any savings, any money I made, I'd go out and I'd try and buy the best pigeons I could get. That went on for year after year. Anything I saved during the year, at the end of the year of the sales, I'd buy more pigeons. We only lived in a 2-bedroom house, and I thought, might be time now to move. Went to the bank with what I had, and they'd only borrow me so much against the house that I wanted. So the only option was to sell this house, move and buy a bigger house, but the pigeons had to go because all my finances was basically in the pigeons. I went over to South Africa to watch the final of the $1 million pigeon race, and Thomas from Pippa was there, and also Jan Hooymans was there. Thomas asked me what my plans were to do with after I'd moved. Basically, was I going to carry on raising pigeons? I said, yeah. I said, I'll start again and I'll get best pigeons I can get. And Thomas suggested, how would you feel about being a satellite loft for somebody in Belgium? That race, Jan Hooymans won the $100,000 car, and he ran to the bar begging the barman for a bottle of champagne, and then he jumped in the swimming pool with all his clothes on. Now, I didn't know exactly who it was at the time, but I'm laughing to his reaction. It was nice to see. It was great. He was so passionate and enthusiastic. And then I asked Thomas who it was. He said, oh, that's Jan Hooymans. So because he was so enthusiastic, I said to Thomas, what about Jan? I said, do you think Jan would be interested in me racing his pigeons? He said, I don't know, I'll ask him. And that was how it started. He asked Jan. We had a meeting that night by the pool. Jan said, yeah, if you're interested, let's talk. And that was how it started. The best performance has to be sending one to the national and winning it. I mean, that was 2018. You can't top that, can you? Sending one and winning the national, especially in Section L. It's not often it's won up here anyway. One of my favourite performances was probably by my favourite pigeon, which is over there, called Ceasefire. We had a North West Region Open race. I think it was something like 600 members sent 4,500 pigeons. It was only from Carrington, 300 mile in a northeast wind. And he won it clear by 22 minutes. When you get pigeons half an hour before you think they're going to be there, that excites me. That's what I like. So this is where I have my pigeon lofts. This is my young bird loft. There's none in there at the minute. They come in middle of April usually. This is my man cave where I wait for the birds on cold rainy days like today. There's a pool table in there, which is one of my only luxuries in life. This is my race hens. Once they're on widowhood, the hens will be in there and they'll be let out and got back in that section until race day. And on race day, they'll go into these sections, which this is the race cocks, 1, 2 and 3. And this last loft here is the stock loft. This is where the magic happens. There's currently 13 pairs of pigeons in this section, all bred by Jan Hooymans. I pair them up after this year, as soon as I got back from Blackpool, so they've only been paired probably a week now, but they've took really well. And there's 13 pairs of pumpers in the next section, which are just used to rear all the eggs from these. I try and take maybe 5, 6 rounds even of eggs from these, which I move to the pumpers. I may let the main stock pigeons in here, these 13 pair, I'll probably let them rear maybe 1, maybe 2 rounds on their own. The rest is reared by foster parents. I like to pick them on type. Obviously, pedigree also matters with them, what the fathers and mothers and sisters and brothers have won. I like to pair, if there's a couple of bigger pigeons and smaller pigeons, I like to try and pair them together. But in all fairness, none of us know much about pigeons. You can pair them all genetically however you want, and it's the pair you never look at that breed your best pigeons. As soon as they go down on eggs now, I'll treat them for canker, and that's it. I've not treated for worms or coxy or anything in here, well, in 5 years. Since I've had these stock pigeons, but I will canker them once they're on eggs, and I'll probably repeat that maybe every 4 weeks. With the stock pigeons, they just get as much as they want, whatever they want. I give them plenty of mixed grains, so they get as much grit as they want. Every single day I replenish grit, maybe 2-3 times a day, especially when feeding the young ones, they go crazy for grit. They get nothing in the water except water while they're rearing. I'm going to try some pellets, which are just high protein pellets, which have been recommended by a friend who said you can really see a difference, so we'll see. With stock pigeons, you just have to get as close to the main pigeons as you can get. Jan gives me all the children off, like I've got children of Harry, I've got children of the new Harry. If I feel the pigeons are going to complement each other, I like to pair them together. But more often than not, we know nothing about pigeons, and it's the two ugly ducklings that breed the best ones. So obviously I'll use some of the racers for sitters, and I also have other pumpers to move the eggs. To be honest, I'm a big fan of the gem products. I use gem for packs. The Matrix grit also by Gem is just fabulous. The pigeons love it. I mean, when they see me going in with the tubs, it's like you think they've not been fed for a week. They really do get something out of it that they like. This is one of the old bird sections. This is where this year I've got mainly 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds. They've been paired now 4 days. There's 3 sections with 12 paired in each section. That's the most pigeons I've ever had. Ideally, I'd like to have the 3 bottom boxes closed and have 9 in each section, because they're only 6-foot sections. But they'll sort themselves out, and the rigorous racing they're going to get this year, this section alone, they'll probably have 4 channel races this year, all from above 300 to 600 mile probably. These have been paired up now 3 days, so I paired them on the 28th of January. As you can see, the bulls aren't even in yet. I like to take a young one at the end of the season off them, just as a thank you for the year kind of thing. But I mean, all the stuff where a lot of fanciers say they like them to have a young one, it bonds them to a box. I don't believe in that personally. My winter routine for the old birds is once the last young bird race is over, I'll obviously separate the sexes, let them just have a good molt, plenty of everything, plenty of food, clean water, plenty of grit, and let them grow the new coat. We're ready to go in January. I molt them in the young bird loft, and to be honest, because we've not long had the garden done, 12 of the yearling cocks, I've only gone in that section 2 days ago, in the middle section. They've not even gotten in yet. I'll usually pair them up around Blackpool time. It can give or take a week, but usually around Blackpool. Then some will rear, some won't. If they do rear, I'll wait for them to move the young. I'll move the young birds probably with the hen, same time as I move the hens. Other times, which I usually do, is if they just let them sit pot eggs, I'll let them sit them out for 10 days and then just move them, then they're on widowhood. There's nothing too fancy about it. If they've reared, they'll have had a high protein diet and they become, I call it dirty looking, and you need to then get that, because protein thickens the blood on pigeons. I don't really like it for pigeons. So what I will do is I'll give them a week on, say, a good depurative mix, and within a few days you'll instantly notice them starting to clean up and getting some condition on them, and then I'll start exercising them. I let them out for the first time maybe the last week in February, first week in March, either on eggs or even if they're feeding. I'll just let them do what they want, but I'll always stay in the garden with them. I don't want no orcs getting them. We have the odd banner walk. It usually takes about 3 weeks to get a pigeon fit to be road trained around the loft, and that's important that you get them fit around the loft. Don't road train them to get them fit. I trained them last year for 4 days. They got 1 toss a day for 4 days, and then after that I never trained them at all. Twice a day for an hour. I let them out at 9 AM, 3:30 PM every day, 7 days a week. They'll fly 20 minutes, 30 minutes, but they'll fly hard and straight. And that's what you want. You don't want them doing circles for 30 minutes or circles for half an hour, or you want them flying in straight lines as you can get them, then you know they're getting fit. Canker them. I have tried respiratory treatment maybe every 4 or 5 weeks. But if the pigeons are coming, I try not to touch them. I want them to stay naturally healthy, and otherwise, if you keep putting all nonsense in the drink of, the pigeons, they're not going to hit that super form that you need to win big races. I fly basically double widowhood, where nothing fancy. I race cocks and hens. I don't keep anything back, unless, for instance, first 5 weeks you have a good cock that beats his hen back every week, then you have to, I'll leave her then, so he has a reward to come on to. But I think the hens fly more for the box than they do for the cock. The hen's happy to be in the box. I think that's what she flies, because the hen is out of her own section all week, because she's in the hen section, obviously. They want to be in where that box is and that bowl is. Hens are more territorial, in my opinion, than cocks are. I like to win them all. The first one to the last one, and I'm a terrible loser. I mean, I was never into channel racing, long distance racing. For the sheer fact is, when I lose pigeons, it affects me, it bothers me genuinely. I'm not one of these people who thinks they're a commodity. There's nothing more disappointing to me than going in the shed of a night and having to close all these boxes when you've lost them on a bad channel race. So I like to see them come, get 10 together from a sprint race, time in, go and take your clock in an hour, and then they're all home. But yeah, with the Hooymans pigeons, it was actually Jan who said, look, they're more made for more middle distance racing, just try them. Well, obviously they've won the National, they won the Midland National, they won the North West Region Open Race, I've won the North West Classic, I've won the North West Grand National. That's all in the past 3 years with these pigeons. The only thing I'll do different with the 400 mile races is I'll take out the depurative. My pigeons get a lot of depurative. Morning and night, there's always 50% depurative in them, especially up to 200 mile. When they get over the 200 mile, that's when I'll start taking out the depurative, giving them more good corn, and I may add a bit of energy mix for the last few days, but I'm still learning on the distance racing myself. It's all observation with pigeons. It's hard to tell someone what to do when some days will differ. You'll get days where pigeons will want more food than other days. I'll never overfeed pigeons, because if you overfeed them on day one, they won't eat on day two. So I always try to build it up slowly to keep them eating continually. In the morning, I'll roughly give them ½ ounce each, because I exercise them twice. If I give them as much as they wanted in the morning, they won't come in the afternoon. So I'll give them ½ ounce in the morning, which will be a light feed. When I say light, it'll be like a diet and depurative mixed together. Then in the afternoon, they'll get the depurative and the widowhood mix. I'll give them roughly 3/4 of an ounce. So they're roughly on 1.25 ounces a day. If they're still flying at me or they still look like they're hungry, I will give them a bit more. My pigeons will eat every day. Because they're used to it their whole life from being youngsters, because I do exactly the same system with my young uns, other than the young uns are trained harder, I feed exactly the same. I found they don't eat much more than 1.25 ounces, because that's all they're used to. On a Friday morning, they'll eat 3/4 of an ounce. I'll only feed them the once on the Friday, which is the big main feed, which is no depurative in it, on the floor, 3/4 of an ounce, and then they're ready to race then. The only thing I'm a real fan of is the Tolosan Forte vitamin. I use quite a lot of that, if I'm honest, and I've told a lot of people around it now, and a lot of people are using it. I mean, believe it or not, I was one of the first people, especially around here, to be using it. I've been using it maybe 6 years, 7 years now, and you really see a difference on them. I go through roughly a dozen bottles a year, minimum. Maybe it might be 15 bottles a year I go through, and I'll give it Monday, Tuesday, sometimes even Wednesday, but I'll give it everything. I'll give it the stock pigeons while they're feeding, at all times of the year. I'll give it the youngsters I'll give it absolutely everything. It's a good product. Supplements on the racing, like again, I just use gem stuff. So I use the Gem Energy Oil, which a good fancier friend suggested using, and that's brilliant stuff. It does help them, especially in the longer, harder races. The recovery on them seems much better when I have used it before the race than when I've not. I use the flight fuel. That's another thing. I put the oil with the energy oil, and then I dry it off with the flight fuel. Again, another good fancier friend told me out about that, because I'm still learning in this long middle distance racing, and it's something I never used on sprinting, but it does help for the middle to long distance races. Friday, if it's a big channel race, and they're marking Thursday, because we mark Thursday morning for the Nationals. So Wednesday afternoon, after they've ate, I'll then put the ends in with them. Throw maybe an handful of straw in, leave them till the next morning. Shorter races, we mark at 6 o'clock on a Friday. About 4 o'clock, I'll just go in, clean every box out again, clean the floor, open all the boxes, let the cocks have an empty box for 10 minutes. Then I've got a doorway that goes through all my sections. Open the ends, and they just fly up to all the boxes and sort themselves out. You get a couple you have to change, and give them, doesn't matter if I've done it 10 minutes, I've done it 2 hours, there's no difference. Just go in, 2 baskets, a basket, take them both out at the same time, cocking it. Just leave them together for maybe an hour. Again, there's no set rule. Sometimes an hour, sometimes I'll leave them 4 hours. On a national, I'll leave them overnight, just to let them recover a little bit better. I think they're happier. But now I've joined the BICC, I'm going to join the BBC. Well, I worked out the other day, this possibility of sending in 30 nationals now a year here. This year's the biggest it's ever been. We've got 36 cocks, 36 hens, which again is because I want to have a go at the more longer distance races. I don't lose many pigeons, if I'm honest. And when I do lose them, it seems to be the bleeding best ones. Ceasefire, he was the best pigeon I believe I've ever had. He never took a box. He'd have the floor. And as a yearling, if I'm honest, I was going to out him. I thought, it's never going to make it, this coward. He can't even fight for a box. But after that, I'd have to lock him up to feed the others because all he wanted was the floor. He was so easy to motivate. After the race, to help the pigeon recover, I'll just fill a 5-pint drinker up with every mix I've got. So if I've got young bird mix, widowhood mix, energy mix, diet depurative, I'll put it all in a 5-pint drinker in each section and just put it in. Let the pigeons take whatever they want. I'll leave it in Saturday and I'll do the same again Sunday. Take it out Sunday night, Monday they're back on the system. I'll also do that for Sunday, and then Sunday night I'll take it out, on Monday they're back in the normal routine. If you've been out working all day and your wife gives you a salad, you want to eat it with a plate. You want steak, you want chips, you want bread. So I just put it in front of them, let them take whatever they want out of the mix. So this is one of my favourite hens. Last year as a 2-year-old, she flew Saints on the day, which was about 12.5 hours. The year before, she flew the real hard poitiers, and this year I'm hoping to send her to the mass liberation with the BICC and the Midland National from Bordeaux, which is 610 miles to me. And Nest Sister was the second national ace pigeon of the UK at the RPRA award evening in Blackpool last year. She's gone back to Jan Hooymans, and this one, hopefully I have big high hopes for. She never seems tired. That's the reason I really think she can do the 600 mile. This is a pigeon that I have called Flash Harry. In my opinion, is the best breeding son of Harry in England. That's a fact. My grandchild of it, this great-grandchild, sorry, this year won the British Masters one loft race. When me and Jan first met, I took my best hen, which at the time was Mystique, which was bred by Peter Fox, over to Jan, and he paired her to Harry, and we split the young bird, and this is one of them. And taking value out of the equation is a beautiful pigeon anyway. He's bred 10 different pigeons that I know of to win that are off him, because I've given youngsters out when I first got him to get him raced. A friend, Simon Hughes, had one with 3 or 4 first off him, and it won the section in the Midland National for him. And his grandchildren now, which is what most people are racing, if I'm honest, the grandchildren off him, and they're all reporting big winners back in Ireland, Wales, even Scotland. This was the 2019 Midland National Young Bird race winner from 300 mile. She's a lovely pigeon and one of me hopefuls for 2020 as a yearling. She's had a good molt and she's in decent condition, and we're going to race her on. My young birds arrive from Jan in around usually the 1st or 2nd week in April. I put them straight on the darkness system. They might be a couple of weeks older than some, because we like to get them all in one go if possible. And sometimes we have to do it in 2 shipments, but usually if we can get them in one, they might be 10, 14 days, so some can get up to the perch when they get here. But there's a big aviary on there, so I don't let them out for the first few days. And when I do let them out, I make sure I bath them first, and then I'll open the aviary, just because they won't fly very far if they're still wet. Put on darkness till the usual time, as everyone does, the 20th, 21st of June. And as long as they're exercising well, the first week in July is when I start training them, and I do train them. They'll go twice a day, every day. And they start telling you see them, they sit in the aviary and they start flapping their wings. You can see they want to look outside now, so I'll just let them out whenever I feel they're ready, really. We have had hawk problems. It's the pedigree more than the sparrowhawk that bothers me, because where I am in Manchester, there's a lot of built-up areas, and there's a pair on the local Lowry Hotel, that's in Manchester Town Centre, which is about 1.5 miles as a pigeon flies, and about 1,000 yards this way we have a Premier Inn, which has also got a box on there now. So there's 2 pairs knocking around, but last year, touch wood, I never had any trouble with it. I start road training them usually around the 1st week in July, when they're exercising really well. I like, again, same with the old birds, I like to see them exercising. They tell you when they're ready to be trained. People phone me and say, I've not seen my young birds for 2 hours. I say, have you? Okay, now come and look at mine then, because mine don't go very far. But once they do exercise, they actually do exercise pretty well, and then I'll start basket training them. As soon as they get here, they'll get an high protein mix because they're still growing. So I use Van Roby's corn, so whatever good young bird mix is there, with plenty of protein in it. Then once I've got them up and they're flittering about, I'll start again going back to the 50% depurative, and I'll even start giving them 50% widowhood as well then, even when they're only 12 weeks old. So that'll be getting them up close to being trained then. I'm a bit of a coward if I'm honest. I try and take them 3 mile, but I'm only insulting their intelligence. I mean, I have done it before where I've gone straight to 18 mile, which is as far as they ever go. You get other times where you take them 3 mile and take 3 hours from there. I don't think it really matters how far the first toss is, as long as it's not ridiculous. You know, they can do fucking 30, 40 mile pigeons, no problem if you really wanted them to. 18 miles twice a day, right through to the first race and then right through to the last race. They'll race on the Saturday, they'll have Sunday off, Monday back to twice a day. This is the first year that I've split the cocks and hens, and yeah, they did all right. They won the Midland National, so can't complain. It's mainly canker that scares me. I know some people say it don't bother them, but I like to make sure they're clear of canker. If there's ever a problem, if they ever think they're ill, I'll stamp on it. When I say stamp on it, I'll use a wide spectrum antibiotic like amoxicillin. I won't be one of these people who says, oh, another 2 of my young ones died yesterday, I don't know what's wrong with them. Because you hear them stories all the time. I don't want people to be wiped out for taking too long to act. If I think there's something wrong and it's serious, especially with young birds, because it can destroy your season, I will treat them according. But you're your own vet, you can see when there's a problem. I'm fortunate where I don't only spend 2 minutes a day in my loft like some lads have to because they're working or whatever. I spend a lot of time with them. So I've sent to the Northwest Grand National, but that was only an inland race. They don't, and none of our organisations facilitate a young bird channel race anymore, so that's the only opportunity we've got is to send them with one of the nationals. Usually start training, I'd say, with about in between 65 and 70. After training, barring, I mean, you get the obvious problems with the arcs, the wires. Let's say you start racing with 50. Out of them 50, I usually finish with about 60% of them, so I'd say 30, 35-ish. On the longest day of the year, then I've switched the lights on, which again, this is the first year I've done it this year. I kept them until 10 o'clock at night, they come on at 4 o'clock in the morning. Switch the lights off and then a molt's a natural thing, a pigeon knows when to molt. My dad got me into the pigeons, but the biggest influence on me was probably Curtis Wall, it was Wall, Lunt and Green, which was Gary Wall, Ray Lunt, and my friend, who I'm still friends with today. Seeing how they did things at the beginning was an eye-opener. I mean, it wasn't a matter of just going in a loft and filling up a drink and throwing corn in. It was how methodical they was. They'd do everything to a time set, and what they'd won. I mean, they were unbeatable at one point around the Northwest. They're phenomenal fanciers. They still are today. Negativity is the biggest challenge in racing pigeons. It's just ridiculous now. The RPRA should be run from the top down. It shouldn't be the members all up in arms all the time. Everybody's always arguing, bickering. They'll argue over 2 pence added to the price of a pigeon, yet they'll go and buy 26 and drink 10 pints on a weekend. There's only one way anything like in our sport can be changed now, and that's money. There's no other way. People have to be able to make money from racing pigeons at some point. And people say that money's spoiling the sport. My opinion is money now is the only thing that can save it. You've got your platforms like Pippa and all the other online auctions that are all making massive, massive money. Why can't we use these platforms and try and get some money back into, like for instance, we're having this big mass liberation this year in Bordeaux. Find a way to get a car for the winner. Make our hobby known to the worldwide public. Nobody knows we exist. And the only way anyone's ever gonna know you exist is by local papers. It should be advertised more because people are never gonna join something they don't know exists. It's scary. I mean, there's no younger lads coming into it. The older lads, unfortunately, are all dying. I think it's going to be more professional. I think it'll still carry on. It'll just be mainly national races and probably one-off races. Anyone who wanted to be successful in racing pigeons needs to remember that first and foremost is the pigeon. It's not what you're putting in the drinkers. It's not because you don't work and Joe Soap does work. Get the best pigeons you can have. That's the most important thing. And then after that, work hard with them, look after them, treat them as animals, don't treat them as machines. Remember, they're not machines, they're animals. Care for them and stick to a routine. If you stick to a routine with pigeons, the pigeons will respond to that. The thing I really love about pigeons is everything. They're looking after them in the winter, they're looking after them in the summer. The social side isn't as good as it could be or as it once was. But other than that, I mean, I've got to travel around the world thanks to pigeons. I've been places I would never have gone if I never had pigeons. I've got so many friends from around the world who I'd never know if I didn't have pigeons. I have a lot to thank pigeons for. I'm a sucker for records, if I'm honest. And that the ambition I have is I'd like to be the first person to win all 4 nationals in my area. I mean, I don't think anyone's done 2, but now, when I say the 4 nationals, the races that I consider as nationals, you've got the National Flying Club, the Midland National, the British Barcelona Club, and the BICC. So hopefully, one day, the BBC and the BICC, if I'm lucky enough and healthy enough. Some say I'm a professional. I disagree. I'm much more than that. Look after your pigeons, get them in as good a condition as you can get them, and hope you're lucky on the day. If you see me race there, you'd say I was a different person. Some people think my pigeons find their way home by smoke signals because I must smoke 40 cigs just waiting for them.